Welcome back to the Scaredy Cat Guide, my friends. My name is Ginny, and today we are talking about Frozen Ever After in Disney's Epcot. If you're new here, this is the channel where we talk about Disney and anxiety, we talk about sensory issues, and really just anything that you might want to know if you're an anxious rider at Disney World, like me. Now, this is another one of those attractions that is definitely marketed to be very family friendly. You know, we have a lot of Anna and Elsa fans who are excited to see their favorite characters, but there are a few things that we need to talk about if you're an anxious rider or if you have anyone in your party who might be sensitive to certain aspects. So without further ado, let's dive into those details. This Frozen adventure contains animatronics, some backwards motion, and a small drop. On top of that, this attraction also contains some potentially scary theming and a pretty rough ride system. So let's start off by talking about those animatronics. Now, it may come as no surprise on an attraction like this one that there are many animatronics throughout its runtime. You will of course come across all of our favorites, Anna and Elsa, Kristoff, Sven, Olaf, and all of these animatronics that you will come across are friendly, beloved characters that we all know and love. They also have a very cartoonish style and are fairly new animatronics on top of that, so they don't have that super uncanny valley creepy thing going for them like some of the older animatronics that you'd come across in maybe Spaceship Earth or other older attractions like it. To me, them being familiar characters and also the newer models really just makes them pretty palatable, very fun, and to me, not too intimidating. But of course, that might not be the case for everyone, and it's definitely worth knowing that you have many animatronics on this ride if that is something that you don't particularly care for. So moving on, let's talk about that backwards motion. Now, the backwards section here can feel a little bit intimidating, and some people might even call it a backwards drop. However, that's not really the case, and even though it can feel maybe a little bit disorienting after starting out as a very slow boat ride, this backward portion is really not a drop at all. So what you'll encounter here is just 54 seconds of a slightly accelerated speed. Like I said, even though it might feel slightly like a drop, really what's going on here is more of a backwards slide. It's definitely more of a wee moment than an actual thrilling element that you might find on a thrill ride or roller coaster or something like that. But really, it's just a gentle slide backwards. Of course, you do pick up speed just a little bit more than you have encountered so far in this attraction, but you can rest easy knowing that it is definitely not a drop and more just a fun moment that adds to the story. Now, that is not to say that there isn't an actual drop on this attraction, and many of you already know this if you have ridden Maelstrom, the ride that came before it. The track is exactly the same, and so is the drop. So towards the end of this attraction, you will encounter a 28-foot drop. Now, to put that into perspective, Pirates of the Caribbean's drop is about 14 feet, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure is 53 feet, so this falls somewhere in the middle. To me, this doesn't feel like a super intense drop. Of course, it can be different for everybody, but personally, I would put this one closer to Pirates of the Caribbean as far as the feeling of the actual drop. But even though it's not super intense, it's definitely worth knowing that it's coming if you or someone in your party just don't really love drops. Now let's move on to the scary theming on this attraction. Now again, if you were lucky enough to ride Maelstrom, you know that that was a genuinely pretty scary, spooky ride. Frozen Ever After has a much different vibe. It's definitely more family friendly in the spookiness arena. The overall tone is very happy, very Frozen, and most of it you're just recognizing these beloved characters and enjoying the general Frozen splendor throughout this runtime. However, that's not to say that there is no scary theming whatsoever, and I would say really the only moment that stands out here is your encounter with Marshmallow. Now, for all of you out there who maybe don't have toddlers that put this movie on repeat over and over again, basically this character is the giant snowman that Elsa creates in the first movie. He has a few hostile moments in the movies and definitely kind of carries that over to the ride as well. Now, he is a massive figure here. I kind of hesitate to call him an animatronic because really only his head moves, so he has very limited movement, but he does let out this roar that can be a little bit frightening, and really just his sheer size is enough to be pretty intimidating. His character design is definitely on the scarier side when compared to some of the other characters, but he's not just genuinely terrifying, at least to me. Now, on top of this marshmallow encounter, you also have two instances of pretty intense mist effects. So for all of you out there with sensory sensitivity like me, just know that you will have two moments where this mist will be blown right in your face. The first one is after this backwards portion, you kind of go through this misty wall, and to me it was a little bit jarring just having this mist suddenly in my face and swirling all around me. Now, it doesn't last for long. You move through it very quickly, but if you weren't expecting it, I could definitely see it being pretty shocking. Now, the second time you'll encounter some mist is when you come up to Marshmallow. He will roar and release this mist from his mouth right before you go down the drop. This definitely adds to the kind of intimidating, scary factor here. And even though it's just a basic mist effect, there's nothing else really going on, the effect combined with the roaring and the giant marshmallow, could definitely be a little intense. Now, I also think it's important to touch on the rough ride system here. Like I said before, this can be a pretty bumpy ride. Now, this just comes with age. The ride before this one, Maelstrom, has been around for quite a long time, so this track is very old. And if you've been on other older attractions in the parks and even over in Disneyland, you'll know that the tracks can be a little bumpy, be a little rough, and that can be a little off-putting to some people. But as long as you know you're in for a slightly bumpy ride, the rest of the theming and the experience to me is totally worth it. Now let's jump into talking about those ride vehicles. So here on Frozen Ever After, you have Viking themed boats that consist of 4 rows that seat about 2 to 3 riders per row. Now, as far as ride restraints go, there is no lap bar or restraints of any kind. This is very similar to the boats you'll find on Pirates of the Caribbean and other attractions like it. So if you happen to be claustrophobic with certain ride vehicles, this is one that you might be good to go on. Now, if there's anything on this attraction that I would call claustrophobic, it has got to be the long lift towards the beginning of the ride. Since you have that little drop, you of course have to get up there somehow. So at the beginning of the ride, you go up this long lift, and as I said before, it can be very, very bumpy. And even though you've got the Frozen music around you and you know you're about to go meet Elsa, it can still feel pretty intimidating and kind of like a roller coaster, even though the thrill elements are pretty tame. Now, the good news for our claustrophobic friends is the ride time is pretty average for other dark rides in Walt Disney World. Frozen Ever After clocks in at around 5 minutes, which is pretty much what you would expect on other similar rides like it. And now that you have all the facts, let's actually go hop in line. It looks like maybe a 35-minute wait today, so not too bad. I am so excited to go see Anna and Elsa, so let's go do this together. You'll find the entrance to this attraction in the Norway Pavilion in Epcot. Now, this attraction has a pretty limited queue, so it's very possible you might be lined up outside for quite a while before ever entering the actual queue. Now, if you do happen to be standing outside, be prepared. It could definitely be pretty hot out here. Luckily for me, when I went through for filming, there was not much of a line outside at all, and I was able to walk right into the queue. So once you walk inside, you will be greeted first of all by some very delicious AC, and you'll find yourself in this beautiful area that kind of looks like a castle. You see portraits of some of our beloved characters from the Frozen movies, and you quickly make your way into this beautifully themed village area that looks like you are walking into this beautiful outdoor nighttime scene. Now, this is another part of the attraction that is carried over from Maelstrom. This is a section that has been rethemed slightly. You have these beautiful shop fronts. Of course, there are now some lovely details that really bring in the Frozen story. There are gorgeous lanterns hanging above, and really the vibes in this area are just amazing. I love being in this section. Now, this is honestly where most of the queue takes place. You will wind back and forth for quite a while. At one point, you will enter Oaken Sauna, which is kind of a small indoor area that's just kind of an extension of this outdoor section. If you're lucky, you might even see Oaken in the doorway. And after passing through, you will find yourself right back out in this village section. Now, right after this, this, you will come upon a cast member who will, of course, ask how many are in your party and prepare you to enter the loading platform. You'll be sorted into a lane and prepare to board this attraction. Now, once the ride sets off, you will enter this magical area where you'll see these sparkling lights above you and Olaf and Sven as they welcome you to the attraction. Olaf is singing a little song, you hear the familiar music, and it really is just such a magical and fun way to start off this ride, especially if you're a big Frozen fan. Now, right after passing Olaf, you will come across the trolls who are recounting the story that you might recognize from the first movie. And from here, you will start going up that lift that we talked about before. Now, this one does go on for quite some time, and honestly, if it were a newer attraction, you would not even know you're going up a lift at all, but because it's so jerky and rough and maybe a little bit loud, it can feel a little bit intimidating and almost like a lift on a roller coaster. However, you do have the music swelling around you and you are headed towards Elsa's ice castle. And by the time we reach the top, we are greeted once again by Olaf skating around before finding Anna and Kristoff and Sven telling you that Elsa is waiting for you. Now from here, you'll go through this lovely door with a snowflake on it and find Elsa in her ice palace as she sings Let It Go. This part always makes me so emotional. I do not know why. It's probably because I've seen Frozen 500 times, but Elsa sings this song. It is such a magical moment, and right as she reaches the crescendo of this song, your ride vehicle will start sliding backwards. Now, this is that backwards portion that I was talking about before, and even though you do pick up a little bit of speed here, it is not a full drop, so rest assured, it's not all that thrilling. Now, as you're sliding backwards, you will hear the music continue, you'll see the magic swirling all around you on these screens, and right before you reach the end of this little slide, you will go through this wall of mist, which, like I said, can be a little jarring if you don't know that it's coming, because suddenly there's just a lot of mist in your face. Now, once your boat slows back down, you will find yourself pivoting to face forward again, and in this little turning section, you will find Marshmallow and all his little snowball buddies. This, again, is probably the scariest part of the ride, and even though it's a little bit spookier than the rest of it, it's still not terribly bad, especially if you're really familiar with the movies. Now, of course, he does roar and blow some mist on you as you go down this drop, so be prepared for that if you do have some sensory sensitivity. But before you know it, you will be out of there, proceeding down this little drop where you'll splash down and end up at the end of the ride. You'll pass Anna and Elsa's castle as it is glittering beside you, and in your last scene, you'll find Elsa and Anna singing together in their adorable summer attire. And with that, this attraction comes to an end and you'll find yourself right back at the unloading station. Now, exiting this ride is very straightforward. A cast member will direct you down some hallways and you'll find yourself out in the Frozen gift shop. From here, you can either peruse and shop around for a while or head right for the door and end up back out in the Norway Pavilion in Epcot. And there we have it. What do you think about Frozen Ever After? I would love to know if you prefer this ride or Maelstrom. Honestly, I don't know. I loved Maelstrom and I so wish, honestly, that we could have both attractions. And honestly, if I wasn't a mom and didn't watch Frozen on the regular, maybe I wouldn't feel so connected to this ride, but it makes me emotional every time. Now, as always, if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more ride reviews like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, stick around, stay a while. We would love to have you in our little community of anxious riders. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.